Marvel. You know the name, you know what it is, you know what it spawned. There's no need for me to waste your precious time trying to break down the history of Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's become one of the biggest movie franchises of all time. It is pop culture. But what you may not have known is that in 2010 and 2011, back before the MCU had really kicked off, Marvel Studios and Madhouse did the unthinkable. They made some Marvel anime. That's right. Consisting of 4 shows and 2 movies, the Marvel anime line consisted of the hottest new property, Iron Man, and 3 previous silver screen Marvel stars, Wolverine, X-Men, and Blade. All 4 series also saw American TV runs on G4 shortly after their runs in Japan. They're weird, they're super Japanese, and they're okay. For the record, I did watch all of these dubbed because I wanted that authentic, it's 2010, I'm watching all of these shows on G4 on the 40-inch CRT monstrosity in our basement vibe. First up is Iron Man. Hot off the heels of Iron Man 2's release, Iron Man was probably the most obvious choice for a series after Spider-Man, who they probably didn't have the rights to. The series was written by famous comic writer Warren Ellis, famous for his Hellblazer and Moon Knight runs, and directed by Yuzo Sato, the director of Kaiji. And just to save us some time, Warren Ellis is credited for the stories of all the other series as well. Hoping to retire from being Iron Man and set his sights on world peace, Tony Stark decides to visit the opening of the first arc reactor in Japan while also unveiling a new Iron Man suit to be worn by a new set of replacements. However, when a rogue AI takes over the suit, it begins to do evil. Tony has to suit up again to take it down. Rogue AI Iron Man suits? Well, if that sounds familiar, don't worry. It's not Ultron. No, that's not a joke. The suit is called Iron Man Dio. But it turns out that the real villains are actually the Zodiac, a group of robotic monsters/terrorists designed by AIM. The show carries on with a Monster of the Week formula, with a different member of Zodiac appearing to either kill Tony, destroy the reactor, or sometimes both. If you're used to the late 90s, early 2000s hero stuff like Buffy or Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, then that's about on par with the kind of story you're gonna get here. It's nothing too special, but if you like the characters, it can be a fun ride. You also get a Japanese samurai-style Iron Man rival, and what is literally just a Bayonetta enemy. The best part of the series is easily Tony Stark. Seeing him in all of his complete, unabashed douchebaggery is really fun to see again after the MCU slowly made him grow as a person, I guess. No, what we get here is the peak Iron Man and Iron Man 2 cocky bastard, and thus the story is the best kind of Iron Man plot, where every episode's plot is dedicated to punishing him for his and his company's past, which leads to the great Iron Man moments of showing that behind all the bravado lies the heart of a real hero attempting to atone for his sins. It's really fun seeing one of the most brash American heroes having to butt heads with the humble Japanese culture. His bad attitude gets him into just as much trouble as the monsters do. Adrian Pasdar, Adrian Pasdar, who you may recognize from Heroes, does an incredible job as Tony Stark, and went on to play him in several other cartoons and video games. Though it is kinda weird hearing a TV actor alongside a bunch of the popular English dub community. Speaking of actors from Heroes, Milo Ventimiglia played the brother of Adrian Pasdar's character and Wolverine in the Wolverine anime. He's also Jack in This Is Us, but I don't know how much of an overlap my audience has with that. And yes, that was my terrible transition into talking about Wolverine. You may be surprised to know that getting Wolverine to Japan is not nearly as much of a feat as it was finding a reason for Tony Stark to be there. Logan apparently has a pretty detailed past with the country in the comics, and one of his movies also takes place there, featuring some of the same characters we'll see in the anime, because they're almost the same exact plot. That's because both Wolverine and the Wolverine take their story from an arc of Uncanny X-Men about Logan going to Japan to save a love interest, Mariko Yashida, from a Yakuza clan run by her father before she can be married off to the abusive Noboru Hideki. The main difference here being that the clan is funded by AIM instead of Logan dealing with the Hand so that it can more closely tie to Iron Man. The plot mainly focuses around Logan trying to save Mariko, getting revenge for the death of his friend Asano, and helping the mysterious Yukio who saved his life. Other villains come in to try and stop him, but unlike our last show, they feel significantly less Monster of the Week here as they all stick around for several episodes, which does give the show a much more coherent and serial plot. but can also lead to issues like the Omega Red fight being just one fight that eats up the time of about 2 whole episodes. As an aside, it continues this bizarre, extremely preemptive passing of the torch thing that Wolverine started in Iron Man. In both series, the main character of the next series shows up to kind of tease what's coming, but it's only halfway through each season instead of near the end where a baton pass would make sense. It's like the show is saying, X-Men, they're coming, but we still have 6 more episodes, so forget about them until then, but hey, they're coming, look, it's X-Men, ooh, X-Men. Cyclops is a bitch. The show does have some really funny anime-ass plot points that I can't be sure aren't from the comics, but definitely feel like anime additions. Like Hell Road, a long road full of traps and challenges where Logan has to fight to get past several gates and earn his way up to the tower to save Mariko. Mild ending spoilers. I get that what happens is supposed to be sad, but it just makes everything feel so pointless. Also, while filming this, in retrospect, should come as absolutely no surprise because every series does this. The fun part here, much like with Iron Man, is that the show picks up on the personality of Wolverine quite well. He may be our hero, but he's not exactly a good guy. Logan is ultimately pretty selfish, and it's his desires that drive him and those around him into danger, though it's those passions that lead him to doing the right thing and never stopping until justice is found. He's good here, not as good as Iron Man IMO, but still enjoyable enough, despite everyone's yowie faces. Now time for a breather. I want to know, have you seen any of these shows? And if so, what'd you think of them? Now that the almighty mouse has all of these properties, would you like to see new anime takes on these characters? Or tell me what heroes you'd rather see in an anime. While there's currently no legal way to stream Iron Man or Blade without purchasing them, you can watch Wolverine and our next show on Netflix. In America, at least. Leading off with one of the most famous moments in X-Men history, we open on Jean Grey's transformation into Phoenix as the other X-Men try to stop her from blowing up. And I'm sure this would have meant a whole lot to me if I actually kept up with X-Men instead of just knowing of this moment. Also, Wolverine looks totally different, no longer has Yowie face, and is Steve Blum now. And that alone should really be the first sign that the show you're about to watch does not work with the canon of the other 3 Marvel anime. So much so that we'll see that Blade also brings back Wolverine, and it's still Milo Ventimiglia. I'm not about to complain about Steve Blum though. A year after Jean goes boom, Xavier calls the team back together to find a missing mutant girl, Hisako, as our new excuse to put our heroes in Japan. They soon discover that many mutants have been going missing, and it's all the fault of the U-Men, a group that harvest mutants' organs to replicate their powers. They find their girl, who has a super dope power, and Emma Frost, who claims to have turned a new leaf. And yes, I do know Hisako is from the comics, just in case that guy tries to comment something about it. Don't be that guy. Anyways, the two join the team as Cyclops continues to be a pissy baby. We'll get there in due time. Heading back to Japan to continue investigating weird things and the spread of a virus that makes mutant powers go haywire, the gang meets Dr. Sasaki. Long story short, she used to be pro-mutant, had a kid with Xavier, that kid had an accident, then she became anti-mutant and made the virus to cure the mutant condition. It's X-Men. What'd you expect? Not some form of eugenics-based social commentary? And because they were at the start, so they have to come back, the Inner Circle is back and is trying to use Xavier and Sasaki's son to destroy the world so that Cyclops can get his revenge. It ends in true bittersweet X-Men fashion after a heartfelt plea from Xavier to the people of Earth, asking them to be better and face this darkest hour together. And I won't spoil the very end, but it's the same as the other 3 anime. Now, at times, this can be by far the ugliest of the 4 series, but that also allows it to have some really great and disturbing monster designs. On top of that, I think it has the best, most coherent story. It can feel like it's moving a little awkwardly fast in the first half, but that's better than Wolverine constantly feeling like it was whipping around at a snail's pace. But also Cyclops is just a whiny baby the whole time, being a little pissy pants. But after asking the people I know who like X-Men, apparently that's just par for the course, so guess that's on me for not expecting that. Obviously, being an X-Men story, it tackles bigotry and hatred against marginalized groups, with this one specifically tackling the idea of spreading a disease amongst that population and curing the mutant condition, Well, let's just say that LGBTQ and non-white viewers will most certainly know that this kind of sentiment and science isn't exactly purely fiction. This series is actually good. You can easily watch this one as a standalone, as it acts much more like one, but if you're going to watch all 4 in a row, just be prepared for a very strange pit stop and seemingly another universe.
I was born half human, half vampire. I share many of their traits, but not their greatest weakness.
Edgy. I like it. I'm gonna be honest on this one. The only thing I know about Blade is that Wesley Snipes refused to open his eyes in one scene in Blade Trinity, and so they had to CG them in. Apparently Blade is a daywalker, a partial vampire who's immune to the sun. He uses his vampire powers to track down and kill vampires on his quest to find Deacon Frost, the vampire who killed his mom while she was pregnant with him and cursed Blade with his powers. Long story short, the whole show is just Blade chasing down Deacon Frost, who's trying to take down the Vampire High Order via some Resident Evil shit. The show rapidly flips between noir to Indiana Jones style globe hopping. It is way more Monster of the Week than anything else. And if you're fine with that, it's pretty decent. But if you want a nice through-line story that doesn't end every episode with, "Thank you for helping us kill that vampire monster, Blade. Deacon Frost is going to this other country. Now go follow him. Thank you for the information. Now token Japanese character that's in all 4 of these Marvel anime. Let's go," then you'll be very bored very fast. Every episode is like that. I'm not joking. It's all of them. I'm gonna be honest, there's just not much to say about this one. The characters are fine enough, the music is alright, the action is decent, just a real solid 5 out of 10. The biggest hindrance is how all 4 series follow such a familiar structure that you know exactly what's going to happen to the new show-exclusive Japanese character / love interest in the end, right when she's introduced, because it's the same thing that happens to all of the other ones. I don't know what to tell you at this point. There's only so many ways that I can call all of these shows mediocre. If you like Marvel or any of these specific characters, they're fascinating little time capsules of where the movies were around this time. But I really don't recommend watching all 4 in a row. You watch one, you've seen the other 3. I didn't really know how to end this, so we're just gonna end on the most important thing that the anime kept from the comics. Storm is still hot.